Okay, now for today's featured guest. I got the pleasure to speak with Jonathan Clays. Definitely a voice you would have heard on your screens over the years. He's best known for his work on Saturday night TV shows such as Anton Deck's Saturday Night Takeaway, Beat the Star, and one of my faves, I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. I wanted to ask him about his route into Voice of God work, what it takes to excel in this area, and any other tips for any aspiring voices of God out there. Without further ado, here we go.
Hi there, I'm Jonathan Clays. I've been a voiceover artist for about 20 years or so, and I've done just about everything you can imagine a voiceover might do, including stuff like TV continuity, commercials on hold, narration, stuff like that. But if I had to put together my greatest hits album, I'd probably choose some of the kind of big national or international TV commercials. But I've also been the voice of some very well-known TV shows like Saturday Night Takeaway. I was the in-show voice of that. Didn't he do well? I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. I did 3 series of that. Tech Santa. Lots of things with Anton Decken, really. I think I was their plaything for a while. And then a number of other shows as well, which led me to doing live events, Voice of God work. So award ceremonies, stuff like that.
So how did you get into Voice of God work?
By accident, which is kind of how a lot of these things happen, isn't it? I remember it was a number of years ago, and I didn't even know I was doing Voice of God at the time. I didn't know it was called Voice of God. And one day I had a phone call from my agent at the time who said, what are you doing on Friday? Do you want to do Saturday Night Takeaway? Oh, I've heard of that. Yes, please. That sounds quite nice. And I thought, well, I've heard of it. I've never actually seen it. So I went onto YouTube and I thought, oh, right, that's what it is. Yeah, I'd like to do that. And looked at some YouTube videos and thought, yeah, that's probably the kind of thing they want me to do. I looked at these different kind of show segments for kind of competitions and segments on the show, and turned up for the first session on the Friday morning, because we used to record it on the Friday. It would go out to an audience Friday evening and transmission on Saturday evening. Went in, the production manager said, right, here's the script. Do this. If we like it, you're in. Great. No pressure then. Brilliant. So I did it, and she said, right, you're in. See you next week. And that was it. It was brilliant. I did it for 3 years. It was just amazing fun. But at the time, I didn't know it was called Voice of God. I was just booked to be show announcer. And I only found out it was called Voice of God about 5 years later. But I was never actually booked to be Voice of God. But it was Voice of God.
So when you got your first, you got that call, then you went into audition, so to speak. What did you do after that in between to get ready? How did you prepare yourself?
For that first one or for all of them?
That first job. And how has that changed in a way that you prepare yourself now?
For that first job, it was just like any voiceover session, really. I didn't really know what to expect, because when the production manager for the show found me initially, there was nothing on my profile that said he can do TV shows. I'd never done one before, and there was no content on my show reel that said he's the voice of Saturday Night Takeaway. I don't know how they chose me. It was just immense good fortune. So I went into the session that day just treating it like a voiceover session, but always in the back of my mind thinking, this is a lovely opportunity, but if you don't do this right, you came that close, but you didn't quite get there, and somebody else got it. And there was always that awareness in my mind. So yeah, otherwise I just treated it like any kind of voiceover session that you do where you think, damn, I really want this job. I really want this. Yeah. Don't mess up. Oh, you're putting pressure on yourself. Don't mess up. And it went okay. It was great.
When you were doing the TV shows, you were doing it live when they were filming and it was being aired. Is that correct?
No, it wasn't. I would always go in on a Friday morning and then they'd play it to a studio audience on the Friday evening. So I was always pre-recorded, and then it would go out on air the next day on the Saturday evening. And I'd be sitting on my settee watching me and thinking, ooh. Or I'd be thinking, oh,
that's cool.
God, that wasn't very good, was it? You should have done that bit better. Because you always think that, don't you? But yes, so it was pre-recorded always the morning before. And then it would go out, or it'd be played to an audience that evening, I think, a live audience, and then it would be live on TV the next day.
So how does that differ, the pre-recorded versus the live stuff, where you do the announcer stuff?
Oh, wow.
Which one do you prefer? And how does that differ in terms of the way you prepare and describe about the job itself?
I love them both, but they're very different things. I've never done a live TV show. Every time I did a TV show, like, say I'm a Celebrity, I did that for 3 series as well. I'd go in and do a session to cover the entire series. It was just one voice session.
Okay.
And then the rest of the crew that were working on that TV series, they'd fly it to Australia the next day. For me, it was a trip into town. And I'd think,
that's not fair.
No. And I'd think, I'm in London. This is quite exciting. But they were going to Australia the next day. So they were always pre-recorded for the entire series. And other shows I did. I think I did one with Vernon Kay called Beat the Star. And again, I went in there for about half a day, recorded the entire series in one go, and some of it would go out months later. The difference with live stuff is some of the same principles apply, some of the same disciplines, the same skills, but there's just so much extra stuff bolted on that you've got to think about as well. Like there are 500 people looking at you or listening to you, and you can't sit in the studio and think, that was quite good, but I think I'll just do one more. You get one go, don't you? You get one take, and it's got to be right. And the other thing is it's far more involved. There's far more to think about in terms of disciplines that you need to have as a voiceover artist. So rather than just being in a studio with a producer or self-record, you're sitting with the production crew for the event. I'm talking about awards shows now rather than TV shows. So you're sitting with the production crew. So you've got the production manager sitting next to you. You've got the lighting person. You've got the sound person. You might have another person that does visuals. And then you've got the host who might be 100 feet away, who you're interacting with. And they're so far away, there might be a pillar in the way as well. And then the extra complication is usually at awards events, you wouldn't use a condenser mic. You'd use a directional mic, a handheld usually. But you also get to wear like a comms headset, which will have one ear on, one ear off, and a lip mic, so that you can take direction from the production manager or the producer, which always covers your left ear. So you can't hear anything in your left ear, and you're hearing directions because they insist they want to kind of have you on comms so they can give you cues for when they want to be completely reassured that you're going to do your bit when you have to sync with picture and other stuff like that. So it's a lot to think about. So you've got all that live audience, you've got an extra headset, you've got your handheld mic, and you've got the host who's 100 feet away, who you're trying to engage with and react to. And that's just an extra series of things to contend with versus sitting in a studio on your own or with a producer. But it's good fun. I like the live stuff. It's hard. It's a lot harder, but it's good fun.
Obviously, we're all humans and we all do make mistakes. Has there ever been an instance where it doesn't even have to be like a huge mistake, but it could be something where, like you said before, you could have said that differently or better.
We always think we could do something better, couldn't we? We know we're our own biggest self-critic. And then you actually hear it and it's fine. No one cares. It's, if it's good enough for the, say, in a TV show, the production manager's happy with it, then it's clearly okay. But we're always very kind of fastidious and nitpicking and slightly obsessive.
What do you think, in your opinion, makes a good voice of God or announcer? What skills do you think that makes them stand out from the others?
Well, again, it's all the same. It's all the same kind of disciplines of the same studio skills. That's strong, clear voice is the obvious given for announcer. I like to make it quite tongue in cheek if I can. I like to kind of make it slightly ironic in terms of if it's fitting for the event. I like to do that. That's not a given. It's not a must, but it's something I do that I just think makes it more fun and probably more engaging for the audience, because the whole nature of, say, awards events, I'm not talking TV shows here, but in terms of awards events, you've got 500-600 people. They can't all win an award. And so as the evening goes on, more and more people realize I'm not going home with an award. I'm going to chat to my mates now, and we've been drinking since 5, and we're going to have a nice time. And so I try to make it more fun and engaging. So I think that's kind of a skill. And then, of course, there's the multitasking element that I talked about earlier, which is, can you perform in front of 500 people? It's not for everyone. Can you perform while you've got these people that you're working with, giving direction in your headset? And sometimes, they're on comms and you're reading out your bit. Say it's the other side of an award. So-and-so has walked up to collect their award for Potato Grower of the Year or Young Potato Grower of the Year. And so they're walking up onto stage and it's so-and-so has been growing potatoes since the age of 4 and has always been passionate about Maris Pipers. And then, somebody might accidentally talk into comms while you're reading out your kind of tribute to that person. And it's about, they don't mean to, but there's a lot going on. Staying composed when that's happening, you've got to read your bit while someone's talking in your other ear, in your comms headset. And I think that's definitely a skill that's important. I think another one, which I never, ever, ever intended to do was, the whole nature of Voice of God is that you're largely seen as this kind of omnipotent voice, this powerful voice that kind of is in the ether, but you're not seen. You're heard, but you're not seen. Well, often you are seen because usually for the events that I do, again, we're talking award shows here, pre-event, they start off in the bar at, say, 5 o'clock and they have a few drinks and then they go to the pre-reception drinks for some more drinks and they have some Prosecco and they're having a nice time and they're chatting and then somebody's got to make them move from that reception area into the event area to go to their table so they can have more drinks. And that's the Voice of God's job. So you go there and you stand in front of them and with your handheld mic and you have to make announcements. And you might be talking to 300, 400, 500 people and they look at you blankly and they think, no, I'm having my drinks. I'm enjoying myself. Please go away. And then 5 minutes later, you do another one. And so that's another element of the job that people often don't realize, which is you have to stand there visible to them, looking relatively presentable. Thankfully, you and I are gorgeous, so it's okay for us. And that's to kind of usher them into where the awards event is going to be. And that usually takes 2 or 3 goes because they're having a nice time and they don't want to go.
One more question before you go. If there's anybody out there that is listening to this and wants to do some announcing work, Voice of God work, is there any tips or resources that you would recommend for them to check out?
Well, my main advice would be please don't, because I like doing it. But if you insist and you have to do it, I think having in terms of, I suppose, again, we can split this into TV and we can split it into awards event or conferences events. And as you know, we had to reschedule this chat from last week because out of the blue, somebody came to me and asked me to do a Voice of God for a BBC show the night before. And I think the principle there is that in terms of the TV work, it's so elusive. I don't know what you actually can do to present yourself for that, apart from having the usual stuff, a good profile on a good website, preferably with a good agent, and some kind of content that makes them attractive to a production manager that wants to book a voice. But like I said, when I was booked for Saturday Night Takeaway, which was my first ever TV show, there was absolutely nothing on my profile that said, this guy can do TV shows. And I don't know how they found me, but somebody must have seen it and thought, we like him. So I think in terms of TV shows, they're so elusive. It's very hard, apart from doing all the usual things, which is having a relevant demo, a good profile, and preferably with a good agent, so that that person, you can defy the odds and be very, very lucky. And that person who needs that voice finds you and thinks, yeah, we like him, her, we like them. In terms of other awards, say awards Voice of God, well, it's the same principle, really. It's about having that web profile and having something relevant. And I guess in terms of an awards show, if you think about it logically, they cost tens of thousands of pounds because, they cost a fortune to put on. They're very extravagant. They're usually at somewhere grand, like a stately home or a 5-star hotel, often in London. They've paid thousands of pounds for the talent, for the host. They're paying your fee as the VOG. They've paid for the production crew. They've paid for the catering, all the fizz. They cost a fortune. So how are you going to persuade the person, the event manager that's booking for that event, that they can trust you with their event because you get one go? So I think that would be my suggestion, which is how can you present yourself that person looking in thinks, yeah, we trust that person.
Well, sir, thank you for your wise words.
Were they?
I've learned a lot, and I'm sure other people are like, yes, of course they are.
Thank you very much.
But yeah, thank you for taking time out, and I'm glad we make it work.
Pleasure.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to hearing your voice on TV sometime soon anyway.
Oh, me too. And it was a pleasure. Thanks for asking. Thanks for chatting.
So, what did I take away from today's conversation? There is not one thing you can do in order to get these kind of gigs. That being said, the more live shows you have done will prepare you for what is about to come. Keep all your demos up to date and always keep active. You have to make yourself seen after all. Live announcing is a job that can change on the fly, so keeping a level head is a must. Don't panic. A word that has popped up a lot in this episode is preparation. Get to know what you will be announcing and why. Any names you don't know how to pronounce, ask. Have alternative lines you may have to use in times of need, like dealing with some awkward audience members or announcing emergencies. Remember, there's no room for retakes. You only have one shot at this kind of job. So don't mess it up. Good luck, guys.